In 2020, because of COVID-19, traveling is out, but there's no reason you can't meet old and make new friends at an Agile conference. The Scrum Master Toolbox podcast teamed up with Tom Henriksen to organize the 4th year of the Agile Online Summit, and you can attend for free. There will be networking events, lots of talks on important topics, and 8 amazing keynotes from Mary Poppendick to Alan Holub, Jeff Patton, who's the creator of user story mapping, Neil Killick, who's a no estimates pioneer, Jeff Watts, author of Scrum Mastery, a great book for Scrum Masters, Jeff Gotthelf, Bob Galen, and our very own Marcus Hammarberg, who's the author of the Bungsu Story, a great Agile transformation story. You can get your free tickets at bit.ly/SMAOS 2020. All lowercase, all one word. Once again, bit.ly/SMAOS 2020. All lowercase, all one word, and the link is also on the show notes. You can get your free ticket or opt for the full digital access that lets you keep all the conference videos forever. And for example, organize Agile learning sessions at work by watching those videos. You can get the full digital access at bit.ly/SMAOS 2020. But don't forget, there will be lots of live networking events, so I'll see you at the conference floor. Hello everybody, welcome to our TGIF, the Product Owner episode this week with Rachel Macasek. Hi Rachel, welcome back.
Thanks. Thank goodness it's Friday.
It is Friday, TGIF, as they say. All right, so we talk about product owner, and of course, on Fridays, we start with the bad example so that we may end up on a high. So share with us, what might have been the worst product owner anti-pattern you've witnessed in your career, Rachel?
Yeah, I think I was thinking about this, and I think it boils down to not having faith or not really trusting your team. And I think when a PO doesn't trust their team, it really unravels into, I've seen it unravel into a lot of different, other behaviors like throwing teams under the bus or disregarding their knowledge and their experience on work. Right. You have the POs that preface some, they bring something to the team and they preface it by, oh, this should only take a day. This is what I want you to do, when that might not be the reality at all. Or maybe they don't trust the entire team, but they trust an individual. And so they do a lot of shoulder tapping around, hey, I need to get this done quick. Can you just go do this? And it's, hidden work that might not be in the sprint that the rest of the team knows about. And, and so if that breaks and someone's on call and they weren't the person that got shouldered, it just unravels into all these other things. And so I think really the overarching theme here is when a PO doesn't trust their team and isn't open-minded to actually trusting their team, I think that's a really tough thing to have to try to work with.
One of the things that I've seen a lot of what you just described, and especially the lack of trust in the team, like second guessing their choices, that comes out also as the PO who wants to tell the team how to solve technically a particular challenge and so on. But of course, for us, recognizing this pattern, we need to then know how to handle it with the team, and of course, how to handle it with the product owner, and assuming there's a solution, because sometimes there isn't. So in your experience, Rachel, how should a Scrum Master tackle this difficult anti-pattern?
Yeah, I think this goes back to kind of maybe what I talked about earlier in the week around like the power of really having that one-on-one coaching conversation. And I'll say, I get stuck in the trap of making assumptions and being biased around working with a PO when I see this behavior around like why they're doing it or what makes them do this. But I think what as a Scrum Master you really need to do is have these, whether you take them out for coffee or whatever, and just sit down and get to know them and try to get to understand what's driving this behavior. Is it something in their surroundings that's doing it? Is it some value that they hold as an individual? that's kind of driving this awareness, and really get curious and understand their perspective of it. And then I think also to try to, once you maybe in that conversation you feel like, this is where this is coming from, try to get them to see that and try to get them to be a little bit more self-aware, and get them to think, how can I, as an individual, be a little, not be so reactive and start to be a little bit more creative in how we solution with the team, or how I can trust the team more, or, what's another way, to look at this situation that might be a little bit, I should say, less abrasive than maybe how they're acting. And so that's where I really think where that leadership and performance coaching can kind of help partner, with a lot of the other things that we're tasked to do as Scrum Masters, especially in like these anti-patterns, which, like you said, they show up a lot more than maybe we would like them to.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, these are all kind of spectrum anti-patterns, right? So it's not black and white, it's not on or off, but there's a spectrum of trust. It's not either 100% trust or 0% trust. POs might trust the team in certain things and not trust them in other things. POs might not challenge their estimations when there's no pressure from management, but start challenging all the estimations when there's pressure from managers, right? So
Yep.
So we need to be aware of, and I think that it's brilliant what you said. Like, when we have the coaching tools in our toolbox, we are then prepared to have these difficult conversations with both the product owner and the team, because the team also needs to be aware, right? We need to prepare the team for these conversations so that they are not negatively surprised by the product owner's actions and perhaps start reacting to that lack of trust.
Right. Yeah, because what the team might not be seeing is that, the POs getting, requests left and right from all these things. They're trying to prioritize for the team, even though, everything that's coming to them is urgent. So yeah, I think it's, to your point, trying to build empathy on both sides so that they can work together.
Absolutely. Well, that was, of course, the product owner anti-pattern. But today's Friday, we end on a high with what might have been potentially the best product owner pattern you've witnessed in your career, Rachel.
Yeah, I think there's a certain PO that I worked with. Whenever I think of like, what are the key traits that I would want to have in this, essentially this partner when working with a team, they had such a good rapport with all facets of the product, and really valued feedback from design and from engineering, and thought about the product as a whole. And so when not just like, what new features are we churning out? So when, engineering is like, hey, we have to refactor this, they had the trust in the engineering team to say like, okay, maybe we'll have to deprioritize these other things because this is important, or design is, has some things that they feel like are super critical to the experience, and really trusting and collaborating with those aspects to see the product as a whole and the success of the product as a whole. I think they did that really well. And I think also their ability to provide, the context of the customer to the team. I think, I see sometimes people just like throw the wall over the work to the team to get it done, and they'll provide some context. But I think the POs that do it well really say like, here's the problem we're trying to solve. This is what we're thinking, but they're open to feedback around, the team being curious around how we could solve that problem, or other things that maybe whether it's designer or the product owner didn't consider because engineering has a different aspect or a different viewpoint. And so I think the POs that are able to do that, I've seen them be super successful and work really well with not only the team, but the broader organization.
Another benefit of a PO that welcomes feedback and that explains the problem as you were describing is that it allows the team to start taking ownership not only of the process, which we focus on, but also ownership of the product, right? And contributing ideas and being active in the work of the PO.
Yeah, for sure. There's a case where, the PO was talking to the team about some problem that we were going to be working on maybe in the next couple of sprints, but not right now. And there was someone on the team, like an engineer, who was like super passionate about it and just like in his free time, like whipped something up and was like, hey, I like heard what you said, and I would love for you to consider like this little mock that I created, blah, blah, blah. And it ended up being the thing that we started with and like what we ended up rolling out to customers, because, and that might not happen, right? Like, like the PO design, they hadn't even thought of that. Like this was something that like an engineer totally like took away and rolled with, because he had a different perspective, and the problem was presented so clearly to him of what we were trying to do for customers. And so I think, yeah, to your point, we can sometimes lose some of that if it's just go do this, go execute this thing.
Absolutely. One of the things I usually say is that the best product owner is when the team and the product owner work together on the product owner role. And that was just a very good example. Thank you for that, Rachel. Unfortunately, we're getting close to the end of our week together. But before we do go, please do share with us, where can we find out more about you and the work that you're doing?
Yeah, sure. Probably you can find out more about me on my LinkedIn is probably the easiest. I think it's just / my name, Rachel Macasek. And then I also have on Instagram and Twitter, if you go at Coached by Rachel, you can find me there. And that's more directed towards kind of like individual leadership and performance stuff. And if you're curious about leadership and performance coaching, whether it's for yourself or for someone that you know, you can also just email me at coachedbyrachel@gmail.com.
Absolutely. And we'll put all the links to those on the show notes so that people can easily find you. Rachel, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much for your generosity with your time and your knowledge.
No, thank you so much for having me, Vasco. This has been amazing. This is my first podcast experience ever. So thank you for letting me try this out. This has been great speaking with you.
Absolutely. One more week of the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast is over, but there's a lot more we have to share. We have developed our own membership site where you find a community of active and engaged Scrum Masters. In this site, you get access to exclusive content and get to interact with us, your podcast hosts, as well as the best Scrum Masters in the world. Join us at scrummastertoolbox.com/podcast and keep this podcast free of advertising. See you next week for one more week full of Scrum Master tips and tricks. We really hope you liked our show. And if you did, why not rate this podcast on Stitcher or iTunes? Share this podcast and let other Scrum Masters know about this valuable resource for their work. Remember that sharing is caring.